my students. Today we're going to be working on part 2 of our Tinkercad balloon car. And as we get into that, I think there's a few things I want to just address from that part 1. Um, and a few things I might want to address for students who maybe did not follow the video guide all the way through, because there's two very important things that I want you to do. So actually the first thing I want to fix from this is that I actually don't like this custom nose cone I did. So let me actually just change this back to the default that they wanted me to do. And the second thing is that, as I'm working on that, is that I need to correct this issue with the... so it's really important that the holes for your tires have as many sides as you can give them, these cylinders. So this one right now has 20 sides. So if we count this corner to this corner, that's one side, two side, three side, four side, blah, 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 all the way around to 20 sides. So we see we have this circular shape, but it's not actually a circle. We have all these corners. That's going to make it very hard for our car to move. If you want to see a more extreme example of that, we can even give it less sides and make it more angular. So now this cylinder only has, it's not really a cylinder on Tinkercad. It only has 12 sides, so this is just a 12-sided polygon. And what's important to know is that as you add more sides, we get more and more cylindrical with our shape until eventually you wouldn't even be able to know. So right now, where I'm at like 52, and this is a level of precision that I really wouldn't even be able to tell, and certainly our 3D printer wouldn't either. But it's important that we make our holes as circular as possible, or else the wheels will get stuck on those corners and they will not spin. So these cylindrical holes should have 64 sides. And I'm going to group that back together, and I think I'm ready to start this lesson, unless I have a slight bump on the top of my thing that I want to fix just by grabbing this hole. Just by grabbing this hole. Control C, now I have a copy of it, Control Z, Control Z. I'm pasting back in a copy of it. I'm aligning it where it's supposed to go. Sorry, I wanted to have this hole extended just a little bit so that it covers that triangle. Let's see how this looks now. I'm a little OCD. I want to lower this hole now. Let's see how that looks. Alrighty. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I just had to extend it a little bit over that triangle. Looks good now. Okay, so everyone should have a shape that looks roughly like this. Maybe if you wanted to, add something to that last lesson, maybe someone, cut even more of these sides away, did some crazy stuff, maybe you added bunny ears, whatever. But what we need to do is we want these to be balloon-powered race cars. And sorry that intro was so long. I just wanted to fix this up so that everyone was on kind of the same page. The next thing we want to do is if we look at this example that I had made previously, we have this round piece on top. This is the piece that a balloon is going to wrap around. We're going to fill a balloon up with air, wrap it around this piece, and it's going to push air out of this hole, which will then get pushed out of the back of the car. So hopefully that came out well on video. There's a little hole in the back that air is going to get pushed out of, and that's what's going to force our car forward. So we're going to figure out how to make the piece that the balloon attaches to. So let's follow the instructions. So this basically says what I just said. So place a work plane on the flat area at the top of the body. So this isn't something we've done in a while, but we could press W to place a work plane on a surface. We used this briefly during those old Tinkercad lessons, I believe when we were making the pawn. And that'll put this orange work plane up here. This makes it so when we drag any object in, it'll always be at that exact level. So we won't have to worry about alignment so much. It'll do that, a little bit of that for us. Drag a cylinder onto the work plane. Alright, I had just done that as an example. Size it to 20 millimeters in diameter. So I'm going to grab this corner, and it's already there, so I don't have to worry about that. And 10 millimeters tall. Okay, so we now have a 20 millimeter in diameter circle, and we could tell because both of the sides are 20 millimeters. Therefore, this circle has a diameter of 20 millimeters. And it wants us to place a second cylinder in the center of the previous cylinder and size it to 23 millimeters in diameter. Which I just did. Size it to 23 millimeters in diameter and 3 millimeters tall. Interesting. I don't remember doing it like this, but let's see. And it said center, so I'm gonna make sure to center align these by pressing, whoops, I need to undo. Let's go back down to 3 millimeters. So I need to center align these together, so I'm gonna center align them on this side, and I'm gonna do a second alignment on this side so that these two things are center aligned. Alrighty, so now we have the shape that it wants me to. Select both similar cylinders and align them vertically. Then align them to the top. I see. So it wants me to align them vertically, which is what I just did. That means to center it, to use these vertical alignments. And now it wants me to align them to the top. So that is the shape that it wants. So again, just to show you that again, and I know you could always rewatch this video, slow it down, back up, rewatch steps, but we haven't talked about top alignment so much. So we have 3 places we can align. We can align things on the side, in the front, and on this vertical. That's called the X, the Y, and the Z planes. You don't need to know that too much. But we just click this alignment on top to align this cylinder and this cylinder at the highest point on those planes. So those are lined up now, perfect. So we can, with both cylinders selected, group them together. Alright, so I'll group those. And now I have my shape. Continue to the next step. Can do. Okay. Add the angle under the lip. If we were to print the balloon connector part now, without the purple shape shown in the picture below, we would run into a problem with a 3D print. So we see that it has this little lip here, it calls it. It's this slanted shape coming up underneath this. Because of the overhang on this lip, because of this overhang, you'll find that the plastic would droop if we printed this. So we need to give it something to support it. So we have to add supports to this. In order to help with 3D printing this, we will add a small angle using an upside down cone to the bottom side of the balloon connector lip. So we're adding a little slope underneath this to support this connector all the way around. And we're going to do that with an upside down cone, which will allow the print to continue and slowly expand the diameter of the lip. So as it's printing up, it just has to come out a little bit more to add some for the cone, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, instead of all at once having to come straight out at a hard angle and printing this out. So that makes a lot of sense. Very cool. So let's see how to do that. So we're going to place a cone. So step 1, we're going to place a cone on the work plane. Cone on the work plane. And size it to 23 millimeters in diameter. So I'm going to hold shift and stretch this out a little bit while dragging this corner to make it 23 in diameter. And again, we know it's 23 in diameter because both of these sides are 23. And 12 millimeters tall. 12 millimeters tall. Rotate the shape 180 degrees so the flat surface is facing upwards. If you guys want to see a quick tip on rotating something 180 degrees, you could actually use this mirror tool. And what this mirror tool does is it actually just rotates things 180 degrees. And this is a symmetrical shape on these two sides, so you can't tell these two rotations. But 180 degrees this way, we'll flip it up and down. So the flat surface, so we could rotate this 180 degrees. Align the cone so that it's touching the bottom of the lip. Align the cone so it's touching the bottom of the lip. Okay, so I guess it wants it down here. And then center it. So let's center that by using 2 alignments. And we can see that it's centered now. It's all lined up. Select all the shapes and group them into a single object. Continue to the next lesson. Alright, so when I click done, it's going to save my work. I'm actually just going to do myself a favor because I know this is coming up, and I'm just going to align this balloon connector with the back of the car. I'm using my arrow keys to just tap it sideways one at a time. And I'm going to shift click both of them again, and I'm just going to make sure they're center aligned, which they still are. Perfect. I didn't make any mistakes. All right. So everyone should have this finished for this step. I'm also going to hit W and reset the work plane back down to the beginning where it was. And I'm sure the next lesson will tell me to start grouping these and stuff. So this lesson was very short. Let's move on to the next one in this same video. Actually, I'll submit this one. This will be a whole assignment.